I think the biggest challenge South Africa is facing, JJ, is that the average South African is too inward focused. We don't have a sense of ourselves in relation to the environment we are in.
Yeah.
We are us, us, us. Our neighbors in the environment we're operating in have a different approach to things because of their history. And as a consequence, by Shia. Let me say it simply. The average South African today is too seized with what's happening in South Africa and not enough with what that means for where South Africa places itself in the global context. Now, in the space I move in, the people I deal with, the international community, global investors and capital markets, I can tell you for free that South Africa is just not as significant as we were 10 years ago. It's that, for whatever reason, we seem intent on destroying ourselves. So it's not that South Africa is no longer the leading, dominating force in the continent. It's that the margin in which she holds her power is significantly diminished. You saw this 4 or 5 years ago when Nigeria usurped the size of our economy from a GDP base. You saw it 3 years ago when Morocco, as it was said by RNB in a paper they published, had a capital market system that was as sophisticated, not as deep, the qualification is important, as sophisticated as ours. Then you saw it a year later when a number of South Africans were migrating to Mauritius to access those capital markets. When you are number one, guys, you have a target painted on your back. Everybody wants your position. And it appears to me South Africans don't understand that. You don't understand who you are number one. So everybody's template is you. There are people today who are saying Andre de Ruyter must go and open a case.
And tell them who is stealing.
Just help me understand this, because I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm a simple man. Small little township at Binoni. Pumang N12 Uti East uzoitola la site. Tiny little place. Went to a small little school called Egukanyen. I'm a simple guy. So here's my simple man understanding. In this country, a few years ago, the number one soccer player was murdered. We still don't know who did it. In this country,
8 years later,
2 weeks later, 2 weeks ago, the number one hip hop artist is murdered. There's a video of it. Everybody can watch it. No suspect has been arrested. Nobody knows what's going on. So how about Andre de Ruyter must go in the report? My father was murdered in 1998. The docket was lost twice. There were eyewitnesses. The guy who stood is still walking the streets. So mabati magayo report. You must ask these questions. And it's the reason I'm saying this is very simple. Here's the nub of the point. South Africans today are just too obsessed with the theater. The film, the movies, the drama. The young man who was a protester, saw a video of his trending where he says, South Africa is a drama, it's a series. This is what he meant. You're too obsessed with the theater. You're too obsessed with the press statement and who's standing where and who's saying what. It's Andre de Ruyter today, and in 2 weeks' time you will have forgotten. In the meantime, Namibia is busy developing its hydrogen energy platform. Last week, the First Lady of the USA was in Namibia. She didn't come here. I was in Namibia a week ago. The investors are flocking into Windhoek. In the meantime, Mauritius is no longer on the grey list. Capital that was meant for the JSE is now going towards Mauritius. In the meantime. So in the meantime, whilst we are busy with the theater, the rest of the world is moving on. It means that the cost of doing business with South Africa, not in South Africa, with South Africa, is now higher. So when you're global financial institutions and you're looking at allocating mass capital into the South African financial system, the cost is higher. When you corrupt a system, those less deserving get opportunities to which they are not deserving.
Entitled.
The problem is that those who are deserving pick up a little green document called a passport. They get on a plane
and go elsewhere.
And they leave. Now, there are some people watching this who go, no, they must go. Let me tell you why that is the dumbest, most nonsensical thing I've ever heard people say. When you say, JJ must go, JJ is born in South Africa. The South African state educates him for 18 years to get his matric. Then that same South African economy, yeah, has built institutions of education. Let's assume JJ gets a master's. It's another 5-6 years of it. 24 years invested, and you're going to say he must just go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like because you're just flushing that investment down the drain.
And so, what's happened now, if it's not the semigration to the Western Cape, that's a separate conversation altogether.
Yeah.
It's the proper immigration.
Yeah.
The number of South Africans who have sat in this chair living in Canada today would alarm you.
Sure.
The number who've moved to Australia would alarm you. The number I bump into, or neighbors of mine in the Middle East, will alarm you, right? Because what talent does, when you distort this thing about effort versus reward, is talent goes where it will be rewarded.
My goodness.
It doesn't have to put up with the nonsense. It gets on a plane and it leaves.
Yeah.
In other words, let me say it to you another way. We're phenomenal at collecting revenues. We're great at allocating where those revenues go. SARS, Treasury. Where we're poor is in making sure that that to which we have allocated, we enjoy the true fruits of. Yeah. That's where the corruption is sitting. So perhaps we have a state of the nation, we have a budget speech. Perhaps we need to have a state of the corruption. And you need to look at and assess each and every single department.
State of the corruption.
I think so, because that's where the problem is, JJ. The real problem is what's happening at local government. Yeah. The real problem is at a municipal level. So
I'm basically saying the joke is on us.
I'm not even saying the joke is on you. I'm saying the joke is you. I'm saying if South Africa was a joke, the citizen is the punchline.
Yeah.
If, God forbid, what happened to Keenan Forbes happened during apartheid.
Yeah.
And the apartheid government wanted to find the killer. They would have found that killer in 24 hours.
You're joking.
That is a fact, and I know it as much as you do. So, the question for citizens to ask themselves is how could we have gone from such an incredibly capable state to the state of such incapability? That there are incredibly capable, talented people. You'll find them in the public service. You'll find them every day, diligent, doing their job.
Yeah.
But I think like you and me, they are equally frustrated at these forces that come to bear every single day. A public servant has a career, JJ. They have a career. They work 30 years. They accrue a pension. A politician doesn't. And so what you find are people who have a 5-year mandate to accumulate capital, enforcing themselves on people who have a 30-year mandate to build a technical skill. And inevitably, something has to give. I would scour the world and I would find the person who will make an enemy out of everybody, but most importantly, will make an enemy out of the politicians, who will protect the citizen